I could, oh, got it. Okay. So I really had to make a decision at that point about continuing with the business or not. And honestly, this was the point where I really wanted to leave Seattle the most. I hadn't meant to start a business. I was kind of uneasy about being responsible for other people's livelihoods. And I was really nervous about being a good boss. And actually, most days now, I still am. I just wasn't sure that it was something that I'd be good at. But essentially, we ended up deciding to stay here. And so, my choices were kind of like go back to what I'd been doing before or really jump into this. And so, when I made that decision to really stick with Darklight, my goal was just to try as much as possible to create a place that I'd want to work. And I think, there's things that we want, and then there's things, really learning how to balance like what the business needs against doing the best that you can has been an ongoing struggle, like essentially since that time. But what that moment was really required me to shift my mindset from like, I'm a designer and I happen to kind of do this business thing, to really deciding to be like what I'd call like a real business owner. In 2012, we finally hired our first employee. I'd say that owning a real business like really raised the bar for my hustle level. And in one of these sort of points of luck, as the Seattle waterfront project was just starting, I basically attended every single public meeting and chased down the project manager, and learned that they had not yet selected a lighting designer. There was a lot of push to kind of pull somebody from New York, and this project manager was really adamant about bringing in as much local talent as possible. And so to this day, it's like, wow, this was like really critical for us. Getting the waterfront was huge because it provided consistent long-term work that would support a team. I'd always kind of fluctuated back and forth between kind of, I sort of need somebody, but this project's going to be over in a couple months. And that was in 2012. The waterfront is still going on today in a limited fashion, in terms of CA, but clearly it's been enormous in terms of our success. And aside from growing the business, I think I was also becoming more involved in the ILD, and I was serving on the membership committee. I've made so many connections through that work, some of which will prove to be critical as we move up our timeline here. But like a lot of those people are still my friends to this day. I just spent a weekend with some of them. So that's kind of what was also, I think, happening at the same time. Now you don't have to look at my slides anymore. You can look at some imagery, but this is just, it's kind of trying to be, I think, along general timelines for things. But it's just really a smattering of things I have photographs of, and, just working along the way. So one business thing that happened was in 2017, I participated, the Small Business Administration has a program called Emerging Leaders. And it was my first formal business training. And they take you through your entire business, like every system, like accounting, just HR, all of those things. And so what I learned there drove us to really take a look at things like our accounting and financial systems, our HR practices, and our general marketing approach. It led to actually, the work that we had to do work in this. It was like, they met every 2 weeks. It was almost a year long. If you missed 2 meetings, you were out. So, it was a very stringent program and really super helpful. We ended up coming out of that rebranding in 2018. It was like a big step to spend money on a graphic designer, but it really needed to happen because I had literally made our logo out of a font that was available from an online printer back in 2008. So
I'll finish it after this.
I wonder if you can mute. Oh, I think there are a couple of people who are not muted. That would be great if you could. Thank you. So, along the way, we grew, we were working on some great projects, and Seattle's always been just a great place to work. I think another stroke of luck was just landing in Seattle in 2007, obviously. But I was starting to think around 2018, 2019, just the need to kind of diversify from a geography standpoint, and also in terms of project type. And so thinking about how that would happen was kind of happening in the back of my mind. I was starting to think that just in a search for talent, we obviously probably need to go somewhere else. But we also really needed that diversity of geography. I think working out of Seattle as a national firm is just not, it seems really challenging. So when I started thinking about it, it was like finding the right people is obviously the key. And so wherever those people ended up being would probably be, where we'd want to go next. And unless it was like New York City, because I don't need to go into that fight, or San Francisco, or someplace that was already really super saturated. Maybe we let the people that we could find sort of drive our growth. And I was having some thoughts about how that would work. And, we'd have to have some remote work thing that we'd have to figure out. And then COVID happened, which, it ended up proving out that remote work, kind of get us into the systems of remote working. But it really did put the whole thing on hold for a while because it changed the way that we worked. Sorry, I meant to be flipping through these. We were like everybody else in just emergency mode. And it really did put those plans on hold. So just speaking of another like once in a lifetime project, we were able to work on the market expansion. And again, like just to be able to be a part of something that's integrated in something that's so iconic. Again, just like what an amazing opportunity, right? We did end up actually going into this growth mode in 2021. This is my friend Ron Kurtz, and he's now principal here at Darklight Design. But I had been working with Ron for many, many years on ILD stuff. I was the membership committee chair, which sort of put me adjacent to the ILD board, and Ron had been treasurer of the ILD for 4 years. So in addition to being, sort of knowing that we were on the same wavelength in terms of just how our general approach to work, and we're very different people, but he brought a lot to the table in terms of project experience and industry experience. And that experience as treasurer of the ILD also gave him a familiarity with finance that has been a really great asset. The other thing that happened was it just finally gave me kind of a backstop and some relief. So now there's somebody to kind of share a lot of that load with. And since then, we've expanded our team to include people working remotely as well. And so we have people in Orlando, Columbus, Ohio, and downtown Columbus, Ohio, and Minneapolis. And so we've really focused on making sure that people that join us are really able to work remotely, really in the same mindset as us from, I think, not a design approach, but a design process, really willing to work as part of a team, and knowing that, they have to be really great communicators because of the remote nature of what we're doing. That was a lot. As I just want to take a quick pause and just see if anybody had any questions or anything. I can't see the Zoom screen very well, so maybe Eileen, if anybody does pop a question in the chat or something, if you could just let me know. Looking forward to our future, I think I can tell you this: I don't know, and if anybody here knows, please do tell me. It's obviously a little bit of an unsettling time coming out of COVID. I think the whole global condition right now is leading to a lot of uncertainty. And I can't predict, so I can't really say where we're going next, but I think my goals continue to be to just keep growing our team. And, for me personally, just continuing to grow and become a better leader. I think just this is more imagery that I'm not going to necessarily speak to unless somebody has a question or something, but it's just something better to look at. But, I think what I've learned over time is just one of my titles was like, this isn't necessarily the path I chose. And, when I was early in my career, I desperately wanted to work on museums and do daylighting and just work through all that conservation stuff. I just thought it was so cool and techy. And it's interesting because that hasn't really worked out that way. But at the same time, the work that we've done has led me to understand that I just love things that I didn't think of before. Like I love working on large scale campus projects from an exterior standpoint. Like the waterfront has been just really amazing in terms of growth as a designer. And it's not a direction I would have picked for myself, but it's something I really like. Same thing I think with the business. I didn't really want to own a business particularly. I now think, obviously it was the best thing for me. I think I would be the world's worst employee at this point. So there's probably no going back for me. But, I've learned a whole lot just running the business while doing the design side of things. And I guess that sort of segues a little bit into things I just think have helped. I've always been curious and kind of a learner about design. Most of my design education, we all learn things in school, but like everybody, like I've learned so much from our clients. They've just taught me so much about design in general, but also just how to be a good storyteller and just watching the way that some of them think through things has been super, super helpful for me. I think I try to be pretty flexible. I think, as a designer, I think you don't have much of a choice but to be flexible. I mean, not everybody's going to love everything that you do, and things change along the way, and things don't go the way that you plan them to. And so, not that I don't have any plans, but I like to think that my plans can be responsive to the way that things develop over time. I like to think that I'm reasonably self-aware. I'm fairly aware of what most of my faults are. It doesn't mean I've fixed them all yet. I'm a work in progress like everybody else. And I think, one of the big things for me is just like a pretty strict unwillingness to giving up. And it's not that I've ever really wanted to particularly, but there are definitely up days and down days, or even up months and down months. And just knowing that this is kind of my path now, I think it's just helpful to know that that's where I'm going. And so, my philosophy of myself is kind of suck it up, buttercup, and you might as well make the best out of it. There's some things that don't help me. I'm still working on some of these things. I have never, I was sort of quasi-officially diagnosed with ADD. It's hard for me to focus. And I think sometimes as a designer, it can feed that. It's like, well, there's always something else to do. I can always jump over to this other thing. And so really working on developing better focus when I need it is a thing that I'm hoping isn't a challenge forever, and it is sometimes better. Obviously for me, I think the number one thing is just people skills, learning how to relate to my team better. And we have such amazing people, but the pandemic was really hard. And I think communicating online was especially challenging for me. I did some things that were really not great, tried to learn from them, and hopefully, I'm on a road to being a better person kind of out of that. Some things haven't worked out as well as I'd hoped. My family has had to make a lot of sacrifices in terms of my availability. I like to make myself feel better by saying that I've modeled, something to my kids. And my husband's been, generally always supportive of, me in the business. He's busy also. So his ability to kind of give back is, or help me out is limited as well. But I think, we've done as good of a job as we possibly could parenting together. I think our kids are decent human beings. So that's on my goal list. I think another struggle I've had is just the ability to shift work roles. And this sounds like it shouldn't be a problem, but it has actually been a struggle for me. As a designer, you know what you're going to do. When I was like really in a project, I would know everything. Like you could ask me like, what's type DR1? And I'd be like, type DR1 is a 1,000 lumen downlight with a 30-degree beam spread. It's got this kind of reflector finish. And as the business has grown, I clearly just haven't been able to be as deeply involved in the I guess mechanics of a project as I was used to being. And I've had a real tendency to sort of like pop myself back into that level, get myself overloaded, become a bottleneck to other people. And so one of the things I'm just really working on is also trying to stay in my lane at this point and support the people who are working with me so that they can, I'm not impeding the work that they're doing. And I'm continuing to just learn from a business standpoint. Our plans for growth are, they're there. And so, I need to become a better business person in order to make that really happen. So yeah, basically I'm thankful though. I think when, we all try to explain to people like, what do you do? And it's like, no, I'm not theatrical. No, I don't design fixtures. But that aside, I just think this is such an amazing profession. I was just at the ILD conference a few weeks ago, and it was, like these people have become friends. And I think it's an interesting profession when people who are competitors are still so friendly and generous with each other. I mean, I have people who are my competitors who have given me amazing business advice that's been super helpful to me. So I just don't think that kind of thing happens when you go to like the insurance agents conference. So that to me, it's like, it was kind of a stroke of luck that I ended up in design and in lighting specifically. I'm thankful just to be able to have the capability to give back as much as I can. We were talking earlier before this started just about, being overextended. And I know a lot of people here do a lot of things for the industry. I've been especially involved in the ILD, and right now I'm like the treasurer secretary of the education trust. So you've probably seen me asking for money in the past, but that's something I'll do here for a little bit. And, Darklight had years where we've been successful enough to be able to really give back to the community as well. And, that's something that I plan on going with as long as we can. And just, I've received amazing opportunities and support, like I said, and I work on our team at Darklight with just really amazing people. And like the rest of you, just the other people that you work with. We have great reps. Our clients are awesome. I love, like some of my clients are just like, I look forward to having meetings with them because they're just so great as people. So I just don't think there are a lot of professions, hardly any like ours. Or if they're hiding somewhere and we don't get to see them. But, overall, I just wanted to wrap it up by just, thanking you all for your time. And I know I talked really fast because that's one of the things I'm working on that I didn't mention. So I apologize for any of that. But, because the topic was kind of a little bit squishy, I didn't really know exactly where to go with this. So, I hope there was something in there for you. And if not, thanks for just listening to me talk about my life and my journey.
Well, Joe, we do have a couple of questions if you're up for them.
I am up. Let me see my Zoom screen back. Oh, hold on. I can see everybody. You know, I'm a Teams native. This is so hard for me. Okay, there we are. Okay.
I'm the other way. I've been pushed into Teams and I'm much better at Zoom. Do you work with short-term or freelance employees, or is everybody full-time?
We actually do have somebody that works with us right now 1 or 2 days a week. I don't know if anybody knows Kate Bordner, but she works with us. She has for the past few years, and she helps us with a lot of our deeper kind of Revit stuff, calcs and things when we need them. And she's amazing. We love working with her. We would have loved to have her just join the team, but she likes the way that she works, and I totally understand and respect that. And it's been a great asset to us on the business side, just being able to have the flexibility of, we do try to plan ahead with Kate, but, if things are really going to slow down for a couple months, then, we can say, hey, let's, take our foot off the gas here. Or if we're really busy, then it turns into, hey, we'll take all the time that you've got.
And then do you think learning more on the business side has made you a better lighting designer?
Gosh, I don't know. I don't know about that, but I guess what I'd say about, especially like the SBA class, was that it made me realize as a business owner that what our business is really different in terms of, professional service business is different. I had like people, I had the guy who runs Mighty O Donuts in my class, right? So I think what was interesting is that we were all struggling with the same things internally, like as people, and the same insecurity and the same overwhelm and all of that. But that our industry, people were amazed at some of the things that happen in our industry. When I explained how long it takes to get paid, they were like, how do you have receivables sitting out that long? I'm like, we do really well. Like if we can collect our money in like 90 days, we're feeling golden. And people were just blown away by things like that. So I think it did help me understand, not necessarily made me a better designer, but I think it helped me understand a little more of how our business is unique. And like I said, the whole experience was just really great in terms of developing the business. One thing that, it made me, we had to go through and sort of talk about, hey, what is your business benefit, right? Like what's your benefit to your customers? And it made me realize that we really need to, and I think this is a lighting design industry thing, that we really need to be advocates for the fact that like what we do really matters, that we really do make environments better, that, the way that we work with our clients is a huge part of like what we do, that is to help bring their projects to life, and that the way that we do it is really unique and specialized. And so from a business standpoint, just making sure that we keep that message in mind, that we keep our design quality at a place where we can, genuinely say that and believe it with no BS. I think that was a really important part of that experience too.
So Julie Conway is asking a question. I know what her answer is. She wants to know, what's your number one favorite light source? Oh,
wait, first I just have to say this. All of these old pictures, for those of you who are not that old, all of these pictures here, let me get to all of these. There's not a single LED in any of these images at all. Okay, so having come from, well, like my current light source, I'm a 3000K person, I'll say that. And I will say that prior to LED, my favorite light source was the ceramic metal halide lamp. I just thought it was a magical thing to be able to get that much power out of something that was as efficient as it was. And so there's probably none in here. These are actually metal halide downlights from back in the day. This light wasn't really this green, but back when we had to take pictures on film and, you had just a little bit different spectrum, it would really show up in film, which was really a pain in the rear. But yeah, there's no LED in any of this at all. It was like the T5 HO was like my favorite lamp for, I'd say that was maybe tied. I don't know if that's the answer Julie's looking for.
She's an incandescent. She's an incandescent girl.
Well, I mean, I loved it, but I think working on large commercial projects, I just think the energy and maintenance issues around it were just so beaten into my head that while I would have loved to have done that, it just wasn't terribly realistic for what we needed to do.
So I have a question. I split my time between fiction and nonfiction, and I want to know what's your favorite, self-help, being a better leader book
Well,
that you would recommend?
I'm going to stop here. I have done it all. I've walked on fire with Tony Robbins. I think that was probably my earliest reading, kind of in that kind of like life coaching, life hacking, self-help kind of realm. But I actually really like Mark Manson. His book is called The Subtle Art of Not Giving Up. And it's the way that he writes about it, I think, is just super approachable. He's kind of a no BS kind of guy. And, when you look at the lessons that I think go throughout, like the themes that run throughout like all of this kind of literature, it's not about you, and you only control a couple things in your life, and it's literally what you focus on, and the meaning that you assign to things that happen to you and what you do about it. And we all get pulled away from that. It's really easy to get pulled away from that, but I think it's been helpful for me to just kind of remind myself that the feeling is just a feeling. The feeling doesn't have to be acted on. I'd also say The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, as old school and cliched as it is, when you really look, I want to do a presentation that's like the 7 habits of highly effective people as they apply to design, because when you look at everything that is in that book, it's like, be proactive, synergize. There's something called sharpen the saw, which is like continue to grow, but like take care of, and then take care of yourself. It's like, to me, we have to do all of those things as designers. So there are times, I think, when some of those things really do cross over pretty directly to what we do.
So I guess I will open it up if anyone wants to ask Julie a question themselves.
And if not, you can have an extra 10 minutes to eat.
Eat some lunch, right? And I guess one of the other questions that's in the chat is, are you finding it harder or easier to find people to add to your team?
Well, I think for everybody, that's clearly, an ongoing struggle. I think now that we've kind of opened it up to more remote work, and to qualify that, like for remote work, we're really targeting people with experience. One of the things that we learned during the pandemic was that for younger people, not having kind of more direct contact was really creating additional struggles. So whether it's easy or not, I don't know. I think I'll say right now, we've been really lucky and gotten some people who are super adapted to working remotely, and have really just embraced being on the team. And we do talk every single day, all of us. It's not super time efficient, but we feel like it's pretty necessary in order to keep those connections going. And people have been able to, I think, really develop actual relationships working remotely. We work really hard now on culture. It was definitely something that we learned out of the pandemic. I finally figured I had the screen over, so sorry, I can read the chat now. So
A question.
sure. I don't know who that is because I'm missing it, but
This is
Julie, go ahead.
Hey. So I'm so excited for you that you're growing and expanding into these other areas and stuff like that. And I do the same. I'm like you know, once you expand, you've got to pay everyone. It gets really stressful. And, you know, like you're saying, a job can go south in 2 minutes, or a building can cancel or whatever. And you're just like, you have all these people on the line. So when you expanded your team, did you have them come in as contract? Are they coming in bringing work to help sustain their own salaries? Or how are you pulling this all off?
Well, a lot of luck so far, but no, like, I mean, when Ron
Good.
came, he did have a certain amount of work that came along with him. It wasn't a lot. And at the time we were just so busy that I didn't want him to have a lot. I mean, obviously growing is, like you said, it's scary and it's kind of hard. And so what we're trying to do is be measured about it, right? And so for example, like our designer in Minneapolis has, you know, she's starting to get some work there just based on some of her previous contacts. And I didn't necessarily know like what we were going to do next after St. Louis. So it turns out that because she's kind of gaining some traction, that's, you know, something that we're going to go push a little bit harder on. I'd also say too, like the work that we're doing out of the St. Louis office right now, St. Louis is an interesting market. I love the town. The food's amazing. It's really beautiful. But it's not necessarily known as like a design capital. But at the same time, there is some design happening there. And a lot of the work that Ron has been doing has actually been outside of St. Louis as well. And so I'll say that the random luck part of things has played a huge role in our success. Like we have a project in Toronto, and the story of how it came about is just, it's not that long, but it's basically the story of like random luck and having met somebody, having worked on a project with them. And then again, like they were working on something else and they suggested us, because I did not market in Toronto at all. It turns out Canada is actually really hard. Just so you know, right now, like nobody's shipping anything to Canada that comes in a complete piece. We have some struggles on some of our projects, but it's again, a real growth thing from just learning like, okay, like, let's make sure that we hire a Canadian accountant and they'll bless what we're doing. And, you know, we had to create a new account for like currency conversion. They don't pay us in US, they pay us in Canadian. So I care very much about like the strength of the dollar right now. So yeah, I mean, I think we're always looking to grow, but do it in a way that's sort of, I guess, embraces the luck that comes our way. You know, Ron saying yes, finally, I'd been on him for many years, like, come on, you know? And so he finally, when he decided to say yes and come over, that was, you know, I wasn't going to wait and say, oh, gee, let's wait until we all feel better about it. Cause he's kind of a slow mover anyway. I was like, I'm never going to get you to yes again. So we definitely had to go forward from that point.
Well,
So
your
yeah,
story's been really
plan, that's not much of a plan. I think the plan is to, you know, like I said before, like have some plans, but really be flexible about it. I think there were some other places that we were probably thinking about going first, but you know, if Minneapolis is going to present itself, then we'll put our focus there.
Thank you so much for your presentation. It's been really great to
Yeah.
listen.
And thanks
Yeah.
everybody for being here today. I mean, I know everybody's super busy and there are a lot of things that you can do with your time. So as they say on Delta, thanks for flying here with us. We really appreciate your business.
Well, we appreciate you, Jill, and for stepping up and doing this, because I think you have a super interesting story. And
Well, thank you. I think it's just my life, but thanks for saying that. And I'd also say, like, I didn't put you can find me. I mean, anybody, feel free to reach out ever if you just want to commiserate, you know, go have a coffee, any of that. I've had cocktails with a few of you on this call, so I do feel, and coffee. So I also feel like it's just now that we're kind of getting back to things, those connections are just, you know, really important, getting them back.
Can I ask one last question?
Oh, sure.
If you could do one thing differently, what would it be?
Oh my gosh, one, like business wise? You know what? I would not have moved into the building that we're in. That like we're at 3rd and Pike, and at the time that we moved in there, it was kind of on the edge, but you know, definitely trending up. And I signed a long lease because it was right in the middle of like all the tech companies like having, you know, like startup money, and like rents were just going crazy. And I did not want to be looking for a new office again. It's been a struggle, and I love my town. It's killing me to see sort of what's happening with it, and at the same time, like understand the struggles of the people who are there. But it's like, you know, it's been occasionally I've had to tell my staff, like, you can't work late. We're in the office a couple days a week now, but like, it's made me concerned for the safety of my team. And I never wanted to have that. I want everybody to be able to go to work and just focus on work. So I would probably not have signed a 10-year lease at 3rd and Pike in 2015 if I was going to do like one easy thing again. I don't know what I would have done instead, honestly, but that's something in hindsight I for sure just didn't have in my plan. You know, I didn't have like global pandemic in my plan either. When I was growing the business, I was like, well, you know, we might have an earthquake, but all of Seattle will be gone there. And, you know, there might be a recession, but we'll all be in the same boat. But I never like really called global pandemic and my office sitting empty for 2 years either.
Yep.
So I do want everyone to know that we are, AJ has been working with the IAS, and we're going to host a wild IAS holiday party on December 8th. And so you watch your email for more of that.
Yeah, I want to thank Eileen and AJ, and, you know, anybody who's involved in the work. Those things don't happen on their own for sure. And so it takes time to step up and do that kind of stuff. So thanks to you guys for doing it.
No, thank you, Jill. I did want to mention that for that holiday party, we're actually going to be doing a silent auction. So if anybody wanted to donate, personal artwork or anything else, we are accepting donations for the silent auction. But more details will come about later this week or next week about that. But Jill, I did come on a little bit late, but your story is fascinating, and I'm so glad that you took the time to share that with us.
Well, thank you all for indulging me. I appreciate it.
Thank
Alrighty,
you.
well, hopefully we'll see you all in December at our party, and have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.